that's been happening in the rest of the world. So, so that's why we're here. We're going to spend the next half an hour doing a little bit of that. My name is Aditi Seshadri. I work for a program called Stanford Seed. It's a global educational program for entrepreneurs located all over the world, primarily in South Asia and Africa. I'm very fortunate to have been invited by Build3 and Vivek to be in conversation with two very cool people here. One of them is, of course, Rajesh Joshi, who has been, he is the CEO of Atal Incubation Center, which is at the Goa Institute of Management, which works very closely with startups to give them space, opportunities, facilities, and even a little bit of money. And the other person here on stage with me here today is Sandeep Mukherjee. He's from our very own homegrown Goan startup, which is Build3 which is really, again, breaking a lot of ground, doing a lot of innovation in the space of electric vehicles and tourism. So that's who we are, and that's why we're here today. There are all kinds of perspectives, and we really believe that this is one, too, that can really make Goa sort of like the emerging space, for the, sort of the next frontier for people who live here today. So just some context, right? India is now the third biggest startup ecosystem in the world. As of 2021, 60,000 startups were recognized by the government, which is just a number. If you just say, okay, 60,000, it could mean anything. But what it really means is that it's actually, of course, a lot of wealth creation, but a lot of that wealth has been infused back into the economy and the ecosystem. So it's, it's gone back into the world that we live in. But more importantly, I think a lot of innovation has flourished because of this. And the biggest thing that's come out of it is employment generation and really very viable career options for the next generation. Can that happen in Goa? That's the question, right? So I was looking at some numbers just for comparison. Officially, 116 startups are registered in Goa as of today. And we have 10 incubators and about 100 mentors. I think for a small state like Goa, it's not bad. But I would maybe start with you, Rajesh. What has been your experience? What is happening on the ground? What is this kind of trend that you're seeing in terms of just Goa becoming a hub? Are you seeing more people coming up? What are the, what industries? If you could give us some idea about that.
Sure. Thanks. Thank you, Liberty and Light Festival of Goa, to have us here, and thank you, Build3, for doing this. So the numbers which you read from the government website. So most of these people who get registered as startups, they need to fulfill the government criteria. So according to me, the number is at least double, because some of them don't get recognized because they don't fulfill the criteria. So I think entrepreneurship has always been booming in Goa, and I think it's booming more. Like, for example, I'll call them as entrepreneurs, right? They created a film out of nowhere. And being enterprising is creating something out of, with an idea. So I think for that, Goa is the fertile ground. And we have seen a lot of the Goan diaspora doing well across the world with entrepreneurship, right? Persistent System is based in Goa, one of the biggest IT companies. Ashank Desai is from Goa, created Mastech, right? So the Goa has a culture of entrepreneurs, and they're doing better. What has happened in the last 2 years is with the COVID, where work from anywhere became work from Goa, we have a lot of entrepreneurs who have moved here. At the same time, companies like 91 Springboard, Delivery, which are soon to be unicorns, have moved here. So I think it's booming, it's mushrooming, and obviously entrepreneurs like Sandeep, Samarth, Rohin, who are homegrown Goan companies, are now taking their companies global. So I think the fertile ground is that Goa anyways is a fertile ground, fertile soil. So I think we are on the right track, and we just need to recognize that entrepreneurs are in different fields. So earlier when my question to Rajesh and Sainath was that even entertainers are entrepreneurs, even artists are entrepreneurs. So I think we need to look at that category also and give them the boost. Foodpreneurs are entrepreneurs, right? There is a lot of homegrown chefs. So I think Goa, from a per capita, from a square kilometer point of view, I think Goa should be right up there compared to Croatia, Estonia. So I normally never compare Goa with other states. I think Goa requires another model, and I think so. Yeah, over to you, Sandeep.
First of all, thank you. Thank you all the organizers for having us over here. Before we talk about how Goa is faring as an entrepreneurial hub, let us first understand what makes a good entrepreneurship hub, right? Why is a Bangalore, a Gurgaon, a Bombay, etc., flourishing and doing far better, right? What makes a good entrepreneurship hub? So it's an ecosystem, right? It's not about individuals or companies organized. It's an ecosystem of multiple different stakeholders. So for example, number one, you need a market. Because most businesses, startups, they first need to try out their products, try out their services. They need a local market to first go to, right? That is number one. Second thing is you need talent. Good talent across different functions, different expertise levels. Third thing is you need investment, and you need the right investor ecosystem, right? And fourth thing is you need the support system like incubators, mentors, advisors, etc. And I feel when all these factors come together, it becomes an entrepreneurship hub, right? And that is a very clear explanation why a Bangalore is a Bangalore, right? So now coming to Goa, right? I personally, I can share my views on things and my story. I don't belong to Goa, but now I feel I'm more Goan than a lot of locals, right? I've been living here for the last 4 years, and I feel proud to have started Be Live in Goa, right? Just to give you a very short intro about who we are and what we do, we are India's first EV platform where on one side we help people understand and learn about electric vehicles through a unique offering called EV tourism, which we started in Goa because Goa is one of the top tourist destinations in the country. And then we scaled it up to about 15 cities across 9 states, and we are rank 1 right now across India. On the other side, we also help people switch to electric, acquire electric vehicles. So we have a vertical called Be Live EV Store, which is a omni-channel EV platform where digitally or through physical stores you can buy and own electric vehicles. And that is also scaling up across India, right? So that is what we do as a business, and with a very specific and clear goal of driving sustainability, driving ownership of electric vehicles for every home and every business, right? Now, why Goa, right? Goa, as I said, the whole journey of giving people an experience of electric vehicles, that started in Goa, right? And Goa has got some tremendous advantages, right? It might not be a huge market, but at the same time, the world comes to Goa, right? So if you are clever enough and if you can craft your strategy around it, you can give the world a flavor of what you do being based in Goa, right? We have seen, I spoke about talent, right? And that you would see is a common thing. People across all startups, the entire community says, we don't get talent. We are not getting the right kind of people. The talent pool is not big enough. But if you play it properly, if you sell Goa to the talent sitting in Bangalore, a Bombay, a Delhi, who are like, oh, I'm stuck in traffic all day, and say, listen, come to Goa, right? Live here, enjoy a stress-free work life, have a great work-life balance. Then it works. So that's what we have tried to do in our little 3-4 year journey. Try to look at the positive side and build that ecosystem for us within Goa.
So I see this a lot. I think this is one of the things that, positioning Goa as this attractive destination for people, definitely important. So I see a lot of ads where people have beach and coconut trees and they're like, come work in Goa. It is attractive, but the reality is that for people to move, there has to be more job opportunities, or they have to move with their families. And for startup founders, there has to be probably incentives and other kinds of things. So this is for both of you, you from your experience of actually doing this here, but because you work, you are one of those people who's offering those resources, what is still to be done? Like why, what can we really offer? How can we woo people, Goan startups and people who want to move to Goa? What are the ways in which we can woo people to get them here?
So the question is, how do we get more people to come and start in Goa? I mean, it's a, so I mean, I was on a panel earlier 2 days back, and somebody said that I can come to Goa because I have an opportunity, but if my spouse doesn't get a job, or if my spouse, and I have faced that, I moved to Goa in Jan 2020, and my wife got a job or the work she wanted to do only in November 2021. So there was an 18 months period. So I think there should be more job opportunities. I think we need to target, as maybe Sandeep is doing with BeLive, target a certain demographic profile. And what I mean by that demographic profile is people staying in cities who are probably single, and single can be at any age, so that's I'm not giving age as a criteria. Single people who can move here. Depending on their skills, they can move here. So that's one part how startups or companies can hire from other cities. Second is you should tell them to come here and start up. We need to project Goa as a product market fit state. Anytime you start something, you need a certain, you basically are starting up solving problems, right? Coming up with solutions. I think Goa is uniquely placed having Bharat 1, Bharat 2, Bharat 3 within few kilometers. What I mean by Bharat 1 is the HNIs, the high income class people, the tourists, and there's a middle class, and then there's a rural poor population. They are all around here. So I think if we market Goa as an MVP state, as a product market fit state, we'll have a lot of startups coming here, innovating for these audiences. So that's my 2 cents on what 2 things we can do to attract people here.
I will always go back to building the ecosystem, because like you were saying, when people come here, if they're taking a career choice, first thing is the fear of missing out, right? If I leave a Gurgaon and I come to Goa with one company, one opportunity, that doesn't work out. And I'm a very practical person. Okay, so I will not paint a unnecessarily rosy picture saying that, boss, if the world should come to Goa and become. There are some practical challenges which we need to address, right? Some time back, we had a certain promise from the government, from there'll be, corporate parks, etc. coming here, right? There would be larger corporates which will be coming to Goa, right? Now, it's always a chicken or the egg story. Those things need to come to Goa. Those corporate parks need to be built. Larger, see, when a large organization comes to Goa, it's not just a big company. Along with it comes best practices, best talent, right? A corporate mindset. People change when they see all these things happening around them. And then it gives confidence to them, their families, to their spouses, right, to come here. I'll give you my own personal example. My wife, okay, she's a very senior HR person, okay. She was a very senior person in Times Group in HR, etc. And I said, I want to become an entrepreneur. I'm going to Goa. She said, okay, fine, I'll quit my job. And of course, I can find any job I can walk into any HR role in Goa. For the past 4 years, she's not been able to, find a job of her liking, because she's obviously senior, right? She's my batch, 2005.
That's why I said attract the single people.
Exactly. Yeah, target singles. That can be a thing. But then I will always go back to laying the foundation right? There was a plan to bring in certain corporates, create that infrastructure, bring in that kind of talent pool. And then the good part is, we are not talking about a remote village in central India. This is a beautiful place to live in. I would say personally, I have lived in Gurgaon, I have lived in Hyderabad, I have lived in Bangalore, and I have lived for many years in Europe, right? Now, I find of all the places, Goa is the best place to live in, right? The fact that I could, set up things, and now from here I've scaled up, and now across maybe 10, 15, 20 cities, our business is growing. Then that makes sense, right? So that's how I would live. The ecosystem has to grow.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned ecosystem, and I want to explain this a little bit because maybe not everybody understands or knows or is familiar with what this ecosystem is. So I always joke that it really, if it takes a village to raise a child, it takes like many, many villages and many things to raise a startup, because it is the most difficult, crankiest, complex, most demanding child that exists, and it takes like so many things to raise it. So when we say ecosystem and Goa ecosystem, what specifically do you think the Goa ecosystem needs for this to flourish, for entrepreneurship, for startups to flourish here?
So, as I had mentioned, 3-4 things. One is the investor diaspora, okay? Second thing is a market. Third thing is talent. And fourth thing is, places like incubators, advisors, mentors, etc., right? You'll be surprised to know that, earlier there was an alliance done with Mumbai Angels as an investment group, right? With certain investors in Goa, and it took off, right? So in fact, when we started, the first little check of 1 crore came in from investors in Goa. And they were very passionate that, okay, you guys are doing something in sustainability space, electric vehicles, we would love to help you, right? And they're still our investors, and we still look at them for any kind of guidance, mentorship, etc. It is there. Those resources are there. In fact, Goa, we all know, is one of the highest, it is the highest per capita income state in the country, right? So it exists. It's all about bringing them together on one platform rather than, startups having to go one-to-one and ask for money, right? Like in one of those big startup hubs, all you have to do every Sunday, there are pitch presentations. You go pitch your idea. There are 30 investors sitting. Boom, you get your first crore. And you're on your way, right? So these kind of things needs to be slightly structured. And if you structure them, then obviously it becomes lucrative and attractive for people to say, now, okay, I can go to Goa and become an entrepreneur based over here. Right?
So Rajesh, whose job do you think that is to do that?
I think it's all our job. I mean, I'm a firm believer. I've worked with the government. I've been an entrepreneur myself. Now I'm a ecosystem enabler. And I've studied how entrepreneurs hubs have developed all over the world, including California, Silicon Valley, London. It has the people's movement. The government or the other ecosystem players come a lot afterwards. So that's the history of Silicon Valley. People rush to Silicon Valley because they was going to find gold there. That's how the entire entrepreneurship in Silicon Valley, California happened. It was all the people's movement, and it's only after years that the government decided to create highways, to create those corporate parks. So I think it's our movements, and I think events like this where we are having that conversation is very important. In the end, entrepreneur word is derived from a Sanskrit word called Antaprerna. So in the end, it's all our entrepreneurs with which we can create the hub. So I will not say industry, government, I say we entrepreneurs should take that step ahead, talk to each other, build that narrative. So yeah, to your question, whose job it is ours.
There is an interesting lesson in what happened during COVID. Okay, so I don't know if any of you have heard of this company called M Caffeine, right? They are doing very well for themselves. They're a cosmetics brand, coffee based. They just recently raised the 30 million round, etc. So these guys were based in Bombay, Delhi, etc. Right now, they have shifted to Goa with 70 people, and the founder is my neighbor, right next door neighbor. So I keep, I mean, just like him, there were many more, okay, people, startups who moved to Goa during lockdown. And you know what? Lockdown has ended. They have not left. Why? Why? Because they have now experienced what they can achieve by being in Goa. There were certain barriers in the mind. Array, if I come to Goa, how will I work? I'll be disconnected from the ecosystem. I'll be disconnected from the market, etc. Nothing. Part of the team, 70 people, I think they have around 100, 200 people outside Goa, but 70 people have moved to Goa. And they don't want to leave. They're very happy being here. they can communicate, they are doing innovations, they raise funds being in Goa, okay, big money, everything happened, right? So, I mean, even if these use cases are sort of amplified to the larger, janta out there, larger audience, that will inspire many people to come here. And it's like a nucleus. You form the nucleus, it grows, right? It influences others, and that's how it spreads.
And I think just to add to Sandeep's point, I remember when Jan 20, when I moved here, and I said I'm moving here to work, I was working with EY, and we're doing a project consulting with Government of Goa. Nobody took me seriously that I'm going to work in Goa. I think what happened due to pandemic and COVID times, because so many people moved here, so I think when you're working from Goa, people are actually thinking, yes, you're working from Goa. Otherwise, people are saying
this is
it's just
very
an
different. So I
excuse.
moved 7 years ago, and I would get messages from people at like 3 o'clock saying, "Are you at the beach drinking beer?" And I'm like, "No, like everybody else, I'm working right now on a Tuesday." But yes, you're right that has changed. I think I just want to add, this thing of like people moving here, and then 70 people moved with them. It's a double-edged thing, right? Like it does of course put strain on Goa in different ways. But I think the important thing is that it also means it's opportunity, because it means that even for people here, there is opportunity for different kind of jobs. Like there's the brain drain that used to happen where people would leave Goa because they were not getting enough jobs and interesting enough jobs here, but that need not necessarily happen anymore because there are different options for them. And I think the other important thing is when companies like this move, it means that the money will follow them. And that money then can go into like other kinds of enterprises and startups over here. So I think because it's always this thing of like, okay, people are coming from outside. What does this mean? But it has this side of opportunity to it, which is I think what's important for us to kind of think about. I think we're just a couple of more minutes. So maybe just final words. Do we want to do Q&A?
Yeah, we can do a quick round of Q&A.
Okay.
We actually
Okay.
have exactly 5 minutes.
Okay.
But I do want to say thank you for that last comment, Aditi. There's kind of a slightly jarring note of like triumphalism that I'm hearing on the stage, kind of self-congratulation, gentlemen, for like, having discovered that Goa is a great place to work. And also the thinking seems to be built a little bit on outmoded. I mean, we're coming out of the pandemic. This idea of people moving in and out, even easy passage of people, supply chains. We came very close to breaking all of those things. A year ago, we didn't have any of those things in place. A lot of the assumptions that you're making is based on possibly an economic model that won't last very long at all. What are your own resiliencies in terms of that? I mean, is plan B for you means you leave Goa, right? Is that plan B? I mean, what is the commitment? What is the sense of building, more sustainable ideas and ties? That's actually the thinking of the person whose name this festival was founded. So I just thought on Statehood Day, it might be good to ask you guys that. And then, if you don't mind.
Yeah, it's actually interesting you mentioned that. So I met an entrepreneur yesterday.
Shall I put up my question?
Yes.
You see, I've been listening to all the three panelists, and I was becoming a little bit restless here, because I felt that what Goa needs is entrepreneurship from within. Whereas you are talking about entrepreneurs coming to Goa and coming with a team. Goa is a small state, and I'm afraid it will be a big burden on Goa if we go on inviting entrepreneurs from outside. And besides, I'm not contradicting what you said. Yes, of course. And today we are celebrating, of all the days, is this Statehood Day.
Yeah.
Where we want more autonomy. We want to celebrate our independence, our liberation, and statehood, which gives us more powers. Earlier we were relying heavily on the center. Now we don't need to. Unfortunately, it is not happening, it's different. Again, you mentioned about Bharat 1, Bharat 2, Bharat 3. And I found most of the Goans were left for Bharat 3. So there should be some program to elevate them to Bharat 1 or Bharat 2. You are projecting the right picture, but what type of Goa, what kind of Goa we want. and how we can help evolve it. That is more important. I'm sorry you are contributing richly to Goa's economy and Goa's well-being, yet I was really feeling restless a bit because I found the most of the panelists spoke about entrepreneurs coming in Goa. So let us also concentrate. I'm happy that you are here, but please help Goans also to rise to that level. You mentioned about the brain drain, yes, but it can be stopped.
Yeah.
Some concrete steps have to be taken. I don't blame the entrepreneurs coming from outside, but there has to be something we Goans also should take it seriously. Thank you.
Sir, thanks for asking that, and that was actually my closing remarks, which we had discussed. So I'm part of Atal Incubation Center at your very own Goa Institute of Management, which is based out of Sankli. What we have done for entrepreneurs in Goa is we have close to 60 entrepreneurs from Goa, in Goa, based out of Goa, with Goan names who have started companies here. We have about 10 crore to give them. We got money from the center. So we got from METI Startup Hub, which is Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. We have got it from Startup India, which is Department of Promotion for Internet Trade. And we also got the money from Atal Innovation Mission. We are supporting those entrepreneurs by bringing in that money. Like one of the points was there is no money. So 10 crores grant is going to be distributed in the next quarter to Goa-based entrepreneurs, because that's a mandate from Goa Institute of Management, which I'm part of. Second thing what we have done, you mentioned the part of Build3. Snehal, my colleague, is here. She has worked with the women of a panchayat called Asanora, where we have created a brand for them called Ace Nora, where whatever they are making in their village, we are selling it online. We are mentioned in the speech by by Honorable PM about the work which Atal Incubation Center is doing for Goa. I agree with you totally that we have to be doing, and we are doing. I mean, Build3, be it all of us. I think Sandeep also with his company BeLive is creating that employment opportunity. I think the biggest thing what we are doing for Goa is we are giving them the exposure and the awareness about the international best practices. That's why I think startup, entertainers, artists should come from Goa, and you'll see the change. And I can promise you will be one of the change makers.
I also have one question related to, so one thing is like we had to cut the session a little bit short, and one of the things that we wanted to talk about was if entrepreneurship is allowed to flourish in Goa, what does it look like for Goans and for Goa? And that's the question that I wanted to ask you. Sure.
I just want to clarify, this is not a nativist argument that we're making at all, right? It's just that the point is that, or statement, set of statements, the point is that when chips are down, like when the border was closed, we are all in we found that, you know, there was it was these repeated kinds of insularities or new boundaries, and that's where the chips fell, you know. So the part of this really is establishing what is the new baseline, what are the expanding horizons, and the question of today is what is to be determined, right? What is the kind of community, what is the kind of sustainability we're going to have for all of us to do all of the work that we're doing. Please. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to your first thing about I mean, we talked about like, I don't think we were specifically talking about people who've only moved in the pandemic. The pandemic accelerated a lot of things. I think that's a fact, everyone knows that. But like, for example, you know, I was talking with an entrepreneur yesterday, and so she's been running her business out of Goa for many years. But what changed in the pandemic for her is that transport costs, like logistical costs, have grown exponentially. So if there was a difference for her from shipping like 5 rupees from Bombay, from Goa, it's become 10 times more. So she runs her business in Goa, her manufacturing is in Goa, her team is in Goa, but now this is something that has happened. So I think the point is that she needs to be incentivized, she needs to be given subsidies, you know, she runs her business here, that's what we're talking about. Those kind of things need to come to people like her. So how she's trying to manage it is that she's reduced the size of team in Goa. Some manufacturing is happening here, but some manufacturing has moved to Bangalore and Bombay because it's cheaper to ship from there. But if she was incentivized, she doesn't want to go to like 3 different, she wants one manufacturing unit centralized, right? But if she could be incentivized, if you know her logistics could be much cheaper, for example, then her business would all be here, right? So those are the things, but it comes with more. the more people who do this, the more people who ask for it, the more people, that's how it happens. It's interesting, and this is not a Goa thing. So I used to work for an organization based out of Chennai. I used to literally hear, and you would think it's Chennai, right? Like it's, been a metro forever. There also, I used to hear the same thing. People are like, nobody wants to come to Chennai because it's like, it's a vegetarian city, it's very hot. Nobody wants to come to Chennai, people don't want to move to Chennai. So then, but it was this thing that happened. So there was some organizations in Chennai, then you start to get more, and then more people come, and they're like, okay, and then you incentivize them, then that flow, it's kind of, it happens, but there's like a cyclical kind of thing that happens where people go out, people come in, and then creating the risk takers a lot of times will come from other places, right? Not necessarily even from a Chennai or whatever. They will come from other places, and once they come, like the rest will follow, and that will be local as well. So I really don't think this is only like it's just that it has to come. There are all of these things that have to come into play for that, which has been my experience.
Plus, I think, just to your question, and I'll give you 4 names, and there's an audience from Goa. Gajesh Naik, Jason Fernandez, Sanket Marathe, Rishikesh Bhandari. These are 4 people at the age of 21. Most probably, people would not have heard their name. Sanket Marathe and Rishikesh Bhandari won the IBM International Call for Code. They are incubated with us, and they are doing phenomenal work. They are not getting work in Goa. I mean, we are trying to get them out, and they won the challenge. Jason Fernandez at Lumen Company is pivoting and is like a pioneer in the crypto and Web3 world. He's built a great company out of Goa. Gajesh Naik is the Polygon Gaj, they call it. In the international world, he's so famous. He won the Bahamas Hacker House. So what I'm saying is we are here supporting this, and I think because people like us, people like BeLive, Build3, and all of us are here, I think that ecosystem players are getting recognized. The support which they earlier didn't get here, and they would have probably moved to Mumbai, Bangalore, or to the US. So we are keeping your children here. we are giving them that ecosystem that the children and the brain drain, as you're saying, doesn't happen. And that's our commitment. We are part of Goa Institute Management, so that's what we do. And I think that's what, to your question, that's what entrepreneurship will allow. If we develop it as an ecosystem hub, the natives, the people of this land, will be in this land getting the best of resources from across the world. And that's what our endeavor as incubator is, to give them that here.
Unfortunately, we're running out of time. So first of all, thank you, all of the 3 of you, for taking out the time to be here. What we can always do is we can go outside the room and like carry on these conversations. And I'm glad that like we're all able to share our insights and our start this discourse. And this is going to be a long conversation. So everyone who wants to talk is welcome to join us outside. Yeah.
Please stay in the room for the next conversation. Thanks so much, guys. I think that was a good, robust conversation, which is important to have, and we're building